Hi guys, welcome back to Hadithi. I go by the good name Wangeshi Miriam. Remember, here in Hadithi we talk about the African culture, our heritage, and of course the history that relates to us. Talking of history, come to think of how life was for Kenyans before independence. So today we are going to be taking that flashback and understand how life was for us Kenyans before we gained our independence, and perhaps how was the lifestyle, how was the economic life, the social life, and of course the political life. So today I'm going to be joined by an amazing guest who will be introducing himself and share with us how life was back then in the times. Yes, so karibu sana Guka.
Okay, thank you, Parisha.
No waranirie na andũ aitũ ũmere marĩtwa maku, umĩte kũ?
Yes. Na gĩthũngũ kana Gĩkũyũ.
No ũngĩhota na gĩthũngũ no sawa.
Okay. As mentioned to you, me to talk about our past time before independence, I'm Joseph Kimani Jenga, and I was born 1941. And that I know before independence, I would explain experiences, what Africans experienced that time with hardship, and very difficult to get to secure even employment. And I think I will answer questions depending on my questioner as whatever was taking place that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Guka. So the first thing that we want to know, what were the time you were born?
Yes.
Hihi waumire mwena ũrĩkũ?
Me, I was born here. Was born here. The other side, where the middle is passed, I was born there.
Wangige?
Not Wagi, Shura. And I mentioned earlier, Shura, not that the name is behind. The land is named, or the Shura is named after the original owner, Ole Shura. And even now that family is still living around Gong. Shura, my great-grandfather bought it from Ole Shura when he was introduced by Mr. Hinga. By Hinga, the original.
And who was this Ole Shura?
Pardon?
Who was this Ole Shura?
Ole Shura was a Maasai. That's why he's called Ole Shura, son of Shura. And so, when Mashara came from Muranga, he was settled near Karura. From Karura, he came just next to Kitasuru. And from there, they met with the Hinga. And the Hinga, as you know, he was somehow related to the Maasais. And for that reason, we would have known all Maasais. Although it was a double deal in language. You could talk Kikuyu, so would talk Maasai. So he was left behind by the other Maasais. And because maybe he married Kikuyu ladies, that's why a major problem came. So he was left behind, and it's the one who introduced Mashara to Ole Shura. So Ole Shura, that's why this area is called Shura. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting to know why this particular place is called Shura.
Yeah.
As you have heard from Guka, it's derived from a person who was called Ole Shura. So now coming back into your life, you were born here. Where perhaps did you go to school?
Shura Primary School.
Just within?
Just here, the one here passed. Shura Primary School. That is 1951.
So
that's when I started my schooling there.
So at that particular time, there were also schools?
Yes, there are schools, but it's scattered, very much scattered. And when you complete, when you pass common entrance, you join intermediate. Again, intermediate, they are very scattered. A bigger area was to be presented by just a single intermediate. And even passing that common entrance was not an easy thing. Some people used to repeat even 5 years. 5 years before they qualify to join and 5 in the intermediate. So life was not all that easy.
And then from primary, were you?
From primary, you are to join intermediate. So I joined Kahuho. By then, it was after independence. No, before independence. But then the school was originally was an independent school, like Igedongoli, the present St. Joseph Secondary, and the great high school. By then it was called Waidaka. These were independent schools. They were put up by Africans to make sure that their people went to school. And even you could cover 3 classes in 1 year if you are brilliant enough. Because the idea was them to educate them so that they can understand why they are fighting for independence. To have that kind of, and then of course a school like Dongoli was started by Bioko Inange. And even Margaret Kenyatta taught in that school. Dongoli, our present St. Joseph School Secondary.
So the people who started these schools were fellow Africans?
Yes, fellow Africans, these independent schools. I'm not talking of Shula. These were started by the government. But then Africans came up with their own schools, independent, whereby they could control their schools.
So in these independent schools, you mean it was only the Africans who are in school?
Africans.
Alone?
Alone.
Did you have maybe the Europeans coming to school?
No.
It was just...
They are meant for Africans. Yeah.
And then from intermediate school, where did you proceed next?
I proceeded to Thika High School. We were with Akina Muite, Gegi Muigai, and Sammy Louis. I think you have heard of that name. Very popular, a good announcer. Sammy Louis. Otherwise, his real name is Samo Mwangondu. You see? Yeah.
And then what was next after now you have finished high school?
When I finished high school, in fact, I was to complete my school at the Great High School. We are the pioneers of the Great High School. Because there were 3 classes, 1 class was transferred to the Great. So we came to the Great High School. We finished 1964 at the Great High School. Yeah.
But I understand that a lot happened in this country before that time.
Pardon?
A lot happened here in this country
before
that time.
Yes.
And our viewer wants to know now that life now before we had independence. And the main thing is, of course, there were rebellions that were coming up to fight the British. But we want to understand what are those factors that pressured Africans to gang up and fight for independence.
Okay. Anyway, before then, Africans were really bitterly hard fate by hard work because they were to be at our Zungus. You know, prior to that, and as you call even in your history, missionaries came first.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Crab and Herman and all and the rest. And I think we did that history.
Yeah.
So after that, what followed, the settlers followed. And in fact, majority of these Wazungus occupied Kiambu mainly.
Why?
Because Kiambu and Lake Muranga, their soil is fertile. Well, let's say you will see Red Hill, push it to Lemuru, you see? Or you go to Ara and Science School, pushing all that way to Kikuyu. The land was fertile, and the Kikasuru. This was our Zungu's land. They were owned up to Fort Smith. So Africans were snares to their shamba. So they were very bitter of their rad. And again, payment, salary-wise, they are very poorly paid.
How much was it?
You can imagine, my father was employed 1 shilling per day. Pruning coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You see, 1 shilling per day, that is 30 shillings per month. And then amukebe, unga on Saturday. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And however, before even he was employed, you know, majority of Africans were detained. And the Muzungu had known that Mau Mau was led by Kikuyu, Eba and Meru, Gema. You see? And even now, that's why they are bitter. To hear someone somewhere may come and dare insult. Because majority of them didn't know even how the independence came about. And with the independence, they had to struggle for independence. They were to take oath. And that's why they declared emergency, 1852. And in fact, it's when Kenyatta was arrested. And as I mentioned earlier, that that's why you hear this road called the Campengolia. Because when he was arrested, they used that road. That's why we call it Campengolia, mm-hmm. on the way to KIA. Mm-hmm. Before you reach KIA, just 2 meters from KIA, there's a road heading to Kabete called the Campengolia Road. So, when Mzee was arrested, they used that road and taken to Campengolia. Mm-hmm. And these who are, of course, they were accused, they were dealt with by the court of the law there. Mm-hmm. It's when they were jailed.
Mm-hmm. So there is something that I want our viewer to understand.
However, before this came about, mm-hmm. you recall 1919, Haretuku was very bitter with these Wazungus. Mm-hmm. Because Wazungus were to force taxes, mm-hmm. on women because of breast. Mm-hmm. You see? Mm-hmm. And this was actually affecting the Africans. Kikuyu lad. Because Mzungu was interested with lad. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, Haretuku was to lead people to rebel against this tax. And from there is when he was arrested, taken to court, and then detained at Kismayu. Kismayu is on the side of Somali. Yeah. Then after that, KC was still operational, but secretary. It's when they decided to send Kenyatta to abroad for further education, for him later to follow to talk about the independence. Mm-hmm. At the time, by the time, Kainaga was very clever. You know, Kainaga was a graduate then. Was a BA holder or MA holder. And in fact, he's one of the close advisors to Mzee, Koinange. Mm-hmm. And after Kenyatta himself was saying, with the bill, the Shoro, he knows there's a government. Mm-hmm. You see? Mm-hmm. And in fact, that time when he was talking that way, because when he was detained for 7 years, was released. But when he was accused and put into trial, was taken to Rotan. Later he was transferred to Rondua. And several of them, everyone had his own house. There were 7 houses for them. Mm-hmm. So when he was released, is when he left Rondua. When he came, already we had 2 parties. Because originally, before he was taken to prison, they had KCA. Mm-hmm. You see? Mm-hmm. Which later turned to KAU, KAU. Okay? Mm-hmm. And the KAU actually is the mother of KANU. Mm-hmm. So, KADU was formed by those who are opposed to KANU. and it was run by Ngara and Moi. So at the time, by the time there was released, we had two main parties, KANU and KADU. Are we together? So they had to compete. And Mzee was so clever. He wasn't to say that he was for KANU or for KADU. Huh? He just kept quiet, but he was the first prime minister that time. And later, anyway, he decided to join KANU because he knew very well. And the KANU by then was led by James Gishuru. But Winga and Boya were working closely, very closely, the KANU. In fact, KANU was mainly formed by Luo. Luo came to join in KANU. And that's why Oginga became the first vice president, although they disagreed on policies. Yeah.
Now we want our viewer to understand, now before coming to even formation of the parties,
Yes.
the Mau Mau, which, sorry.
Mau Mau was to be formed, and the majority who really went to Mau Mau to the forest, they had fought in Second World War. And they but maybe before then, Africans didn't believe Mzungu can die. And Akina Kimani knew, because they had experienced Burma, where they had gone in Second World War. And in fact, their age group of those people, majority of them, were those who became circumcised in 1940 age group. And the ones actual majority who went to the forest.
So for this Mau Mau...
But then, after the Kikuyu took oath with Embo and Meru, oath, they can't go back. Now if they're to fight for it. And they knew very well it's not an easy job. We have to share the bread. And these people were really determined to fight for it. That even if one was to be hurt or be shot, he could not accept to be taken to hospital.
Why?
That he drank for his lad. He could not accept to be taken to hospital. Better die. They knew very well they were dying for their lad. Get that? So they were really determined. So for these people to succeed, Kikuyus were forced to take oath. Even those people were not to go to the forest. And then you know, at that time, when Macho was declared, Wazungus were employed as home guards. You see? Home, those who had taken oath regarded as enemies. You see? Because according to them, they were informers of Wazungus. And even now you could hear some of them talk of home guards. Because they are loyal to the Mzungu. And there is no wonder even in America. And that's how Canada was formed. Because they were opposed to these Americans who were fighting in their motherland. You see? And those who are supporting, and those against supporting taking America inside North America. Get that? So even these home guards, according to those who have taken oath, they are enemies. Because they are supporting Mzungu's ideas of suppressing. And I assure those years, those days, life was very difficult. This party unaona, this party you see, was a rare commodity in most of the homes. Because, most of the houses were huts, huts with the grass. You see? And even the best house you could see is cornered, it's a square one, but the roofing ni nyazi tu, kuna kitu ingine na was na mud. Okay? Those houses actually were owned by teachers, who are very few. And again, they were not all that educated. Majority of them reached only standard 4. You see? And even to some, later, when they became, they could not even teach even standard 3 English. Because they didn't know. You see? So education was really very rare among Africans. Muzungu was trying to restrict Africans from learning too much. He didn't believe that. And he knew very well this kind of education will brighten them. They'll see far. They'll understand their rights. And Muzungu had known that.
Yeah. So, yeah. So there is also this question that majority of us want to know.
Yes.
Were the Mau Mau young people?
No. Even old ones. In fact, the old ones are the ones who took it very seriously. And that's why they were detained. Some in Manyani, also. Yusi Kirinyaga hizi mashamba ya nini? Ya rais. Mitaro ishibwa na Tunisia by force. They are forced. You see? Yeah.
And the Mau Mau come from one particular region?
As I mentioned, Mau Mau, even according to Mzungu, Meru, Embu, and Kikuyu. Gema.
So they are at the forefront of Mau Mau?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why did they choose to maybe live in the forest?
Well, they are hiding. Already they are enemies to Mzungus. And they couldn't kill them. Of course. To achieve Uhuru, independence was not an easy thing. They even taught a lesson, even themselves. And they were making up guns on their own. Others are snatched from Askari when they are killed. You see? That's the thing.
And maybe how did these people now in the forest, how are they able to get food?
No. During night they could come. Even Wazungus were failing to come in the reserves during the night. Yes. Food could be taken here at night. And they even themselves could come. And they even slaughter goods at homes. Okay? Yeah. But at the end of the day, they must end up in the forest. Or caves. Kama Nyandarua. Okay? Yeah.
And how did they make sure that, apart from taking the oath, how did they make sure that what we are going to say is going to stay among us? No one is going to betray us.
No, for that, they had a belief. After Kikuyus had that belief in Mary. Taking an oath, not a question of saying. You are swearing. And you know very well, with the Gama people, they fear God. You see? And whatever they say, they take it seriously. They don't reveal the secret to anybody. None, both men and women, none could believe, none could reveal the secret oath. None.
And there is also these questions that people want to know. In the forest, there are also women part of the Mau Mau.
Yes, there were girls. And again, none could be concerned. It was against that. Wow. The issue of bringing up children, no, that's not right.
And where would
it's evil, according to them, that time, because of their job, what they are doing.
And where would these parents leave their children?
Pardon?
Where will these parents who have come to live in the forest?
No, not really wives, but ladies, young ladies. You see? Not wives with married wives or with children. That's why I'm saying that there's no question of raising children in the forest. That's not right. Because it's wrong. In fact, you can't meet with a girl, with boys as a girl.
There is also one thing that our viewer wants to understand. Where exactly did the word Mau Mau come from?
Mau Mau? The word Mau Mau, I'm not a bit try to explain. Mau Mau haswa, unaona wakati kamtoto kabuzu kananyonya, ile kanyonya quietly. Mzungu, yani kitoko quietly. Using quietly, lakini mzungu ndio haswa aliweka hiyo jina in a big way, Mau Mau. Anasikia Mau Mau, yani hiyo kamtoto kanafanya, anasikia ndio hiyo jina alitoa hapo.
So that Mau Mau came actually from the British?
Yes, no. Wanasikia wakiongea jina Mau Mau, yani kuongea pole pole, kama kamtoto kabuzi kanatoa maziwa.
Like mama ring?
Yeah, kitu kama hiyo.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And there are those people that we know that like people.
Ndio mzungu sasa akachukua ni kama what they are doing, inaitwa Mau Mau.
And there are those people that we know, sasa sisi tukisoma kwa vitabu, the people like Dedan Kimathi, they were not.
It was in Second World War. Yes.
And how was Second World War like?
Second World War, that one, you know, I was young. That one, Second World War, it was wazungu who were fighting. Obama. You know, even India became independent in 1947. They were colonized by wazungus. Ama hizi umesoma akina Vasco da Gama, akina Marco Polo. This is how the explorers started to come to Africa, looking for land. You see? Ama namna gani? Oh yeah.
So that is so interesting to learn about the Mau Mau.
Yeah.
But sasa,
otherwise, before wazungus came, it was pure Africans. Yeah.
And how would people rule themselves?
They could have chiefs. Yes. They're using chiefs, not actually kama Chimuhuhu, watu kama hawa. Na Kinyanjui, Wazimu chief, was appointed by the other elders.
So up to this point,
kama tulisema Masai wanafanyanga wakati wanakuwa wazima, wana pick their leader. You see? By so doing these groups, eventually they may pick one who is above. Yes.
So up to this point, we can conclude that Mau Mau came from a bit of the word mamaring.
Yes.
And we have also been able to
kama
understand.
Mtoto wa mbuzi inafanya ikinyonya.
Yeah, and we have also been able to understand some of the pressing factors that led Africans to actually come together and form the Mau Mau.
Land, because our land was nasty. I was almost.
We have also been able to understand how these people will survive in the forest.
Yes.
And how they will maintain that they have the information.
They had taken out, and they had informers, even themselves. There are some people who are left here. Not everybody is in forest. And they still come during the night.
And
they get the information.
Yeah, and for the moment, were they looking for a particular body structure?
No. No.
So
for instance, I mentioned to you 1954, it was cadets who were killed here in this school. We signed for them. And they were just playing this mpira kidogo in the field. Saa 8. Hawa watu walitoroa pande hiyo. Wakasukumwa na walikuwa wametanganywa na wanawake na hawa wasichana, wakanywa pombe huko. Ndio sasa walikuta hawa watu, na wakati usiku uliingia, sisi wote tuloko kwa field, na mzungu alikuwa anaitwa Mrwaikina. Kwa hivyo naye Maumau kumbe wako kwa ile figiti, unaona ile figiti hapo kubwa, walikuwa wamengojea waone matokeo. Kwa hiyo kungetokea vita, lakini lucky enough Charles Jojo, baba yake alikuwa senior chief, alikuwa very popular sana wazungu. Alisema hapa kwake hakuna Maumau. Hawa walitoka pande hii siwa hapa, na ni kweli walitoka Kibadi ile, lakini siwa hapa. Kwa hivyo hakuna nyumba ya chomo hapana. Lakini information wala wako forest wanapata, siati hawatembei manyumbani, na hata chakula wanapelekewa.
By who?
Women, usiku. Yes.
Yeah, and touching on that, can you please maybe share with us, maybe did these women have a particular role in the Mau Mau? These women.
Yeah.
What role did they
Sana. Si unasikia kama huko si watapikia hawa wako forest. Ama namna gani? Na hata unasikia hata wanapikia hapa manyumbani na wanapeleka chakula. Arabu. Of course with the escort. Lazima kuwa kulikuwaga na wanaume. Right?
And apart from, yes, you have told us the oath and all that, but did you people maybe use some things like songs to maybe convey message?
Song? By then, watu walikuwa pande kuanza kuimba hii nyimbo ya ya vita. Tena unajua hii mambo ni mambo ilifanywa na saketi kubwa sana. Hakuna mtu anataka yaka mzungu aelewe. Na unajua iko wengine wanaweza hata kumwambia mzungu yeye. Ndio mimi nakwambia home guards walikuwa treated na the real people were fighting for independence kama enemy, because they can also inform them. Hata hizo songs unasema si waliambiwa. Kwa hivyo mambo yote ilikuwa quietly. Yeah. Ungetoka utoe hiyo wimbo, walikuja kutoa baadaye akina Kamaru. Ama namna gani? Lakini wakati ule hii mambo yote inafanywa na siri kubwa sana. Hawataki kitu kingine, yani toke mzungu imfikie. Nasikia na mzungu anatumia pesa. Nasikia ameandika askari somo ngapi? Ndio. Kwa hivyo siangeambiwa na yule mwenye kusema hivyo, kufanya hivyo, si anataka labda pesa. Na aonese mzungu yani mtu mzuri. Kitu kama hiyo.
And what would happen to if maybe these people, the Mau Mau people, were known by the mzungu?
Wangejua. Maana yake hata nyile wako wananyoa na madevu. Wangejua. Yes. Kuna time ya usifu. Magwandi walikuwa na washeria nyingi. Nafika mpaka huko.
Wow, interesting. So after that juncture, this marks our first episode about the early life and the life of Mau Mau. Yeah.
Hardship. Looking for cows. And mistreated, even you can't be considered by mzungu kama grown up. Unakuwa treated just like a child. Hata young boy ya mzungu atakupiga kofi na utakujibu.
So it's
hard work. Salary hakuna. Kwa hivyo nakwambia June Christmas, hata kama mnakosa chapati, mjue kweli mko hadi leo. Na nasikia chakula hapana bei kali. Lakini hata hiyo shilingi moja kuipata si rahisi. Si rahisi. Shule tulikuwa naipata tu shilingi. Lakini iko wengine wanakosa hata hiyo shilingi mbili. The time was hard. Oh yeah.
And maybe things like maybe milk? How much would you buy at that time?
Milk by then, you know, the question of selling milk wasn't there. Wale walikuwa na cows. Ng'ombe yenyewe inaila maziwa ya chupa moja ama chupa na soda, na unakamua na mtoto yake naye inanyonya. Kwa hiyo inaila maziwa. Hii grade cows iko hapa kuwekwa na Africans could not be allowed. Sababu mzungu naye hataki kupata hiyo maziwa mingi unataka. Ana discourage ati itakufa. Unaona? Hata coffee. Sasa mzungu alikubalia watu wapande coffee. Cash crop. Ama majani. Sasa it came later. Just few years before independence. And not all. So a few people. You see? Oh yeah.
Wow.
Naona? Yeah.
Acha nifunge hii episode moja alafu tutaendelea na nyingine sasa.
Okay.
Wow, that has been interesting, learning about the early life, the Mau Mau, how these people would meet, the factors that led to the uprising of the Mau Mau, and so much more. So this marks an end to our first episode, and very much grateful to our Guka here, and see you in the next episode.